Hi everyone, today we're going to do something a little different from my channel, so stay tuned. I've got Patul in Motion's 𝐸𝐤 with me to talk about a compare and contrast on some key project management issues. We've selected 5 things we think you need to know. And if you don't know who I am, I'm Liz from ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Welcome to the channel. On Project Skills Mentor, we talk about projects, teams, user journeys, and mentorship. And I want to talk to 𝐸𝐤 today to find out all that she knows about project management and compare and contrast it with my experience. So maybe introduce yourself a little.
Yeah, of course. Hi guys, my name's 𝐸𝐤. I run a channel called Patul in Motion. And yeah, I've been a project manager for roughly about 5 years now, mainly delivering IT projects in the tech space. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
Right, and we're going to be talking more about what 𝐸𝐤 actually does on the job in a minute. I'm Liz, and I've been a project manager for 35 years, so that's a difference right there.
Yep.
And also, I've worked in the US mainly, but also in Europe for the last 20-something years. So I think we also have a little bit of difference between what happens on the continent versus what happens in the UK. So let's start with the first topic, leadership styles. Why don't you start?
Cool. So my leadership style is very, I would say, firm but free. So I think it's really, really key for me and my approach to empower my team and make them feel as though they can definitely do it, because they can. You know, they're intelligent people. Show me what you need and I will deliver it, whilst also ensuring that everyone is along the journey. So making sure that everyone knows what the objective is, what we need to deliver. I protect my team all the time and just making a safe space for all of us to flourish. So that's
fantastic. I love that. And I love that advice of getting the balance between showing them the way and letting them be free to make their own way. I would say leading by example. So if I'm curious, if I openly ask questions or say I don't know, other people will see it's okay. That's not failure. That's just being honest. Mm-hmm. So if we can make a space where it's safe to fail, safe to ask questions, and safe to be vulnerable, that's a good thing. And it also creates a kind of culture where everyone has a voice. And that's something really important to me in terms of diversity, because I've worked on many projects across the world, and not every culture acts the same way. Some people will be quiet and reserved until they're really allowed to flourish. So you have to give people the space they need and understand the different cultures and how people work in order to get the best from everyone. So let's talk about something really basic to project management, which is project planning.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Project planning, really, really key. I project plan with my team. Now, you'll be so surprised the amount of people that try to make a project plan in isolation. Just literally guess how long things are going to take. Listen, you don't do this. You're not going to implement that cloud solution. You don't know. You better go and consult with your team. Otherwise, you haven't got a way about it. I think it's really, really key to understand your scope, first of all. What are the requirements, and translate them to deliverables, so that when you are planning, you know exactly that what you're going to make at the end will actually fulfill what the input is meant to be, i.e. those requirements. So for me, make sure the scope is really, really clear, you know exactly what you're doing, and then collectively with your team, plan effectively.
Yep, ask those subject matter experts. I completely agree. My take is essentially that, but I tend to start, because of the kind of projects I do, with what is called the user journey. The user journey is really understanding that end user who's going to use your product. And because I work mostly in building apps or solutions for end users, we go through creating a persona and then workshopping what that journey looks like, who else that app or product is touching, and who else needs to work to either support or create a process that makes that product work right. And once we understand that journey and our user, we can build the thing with them in mind. I come from an app building and process improvement background, and your background is in?
Hardware. So hardware infrastructure. It's very, very different, I would say, in terms of our approach. My engineers tend to be on site. They tend to be implementing things with their hands, obviously doing some simulation sometimes, but it is very, very hands-on. And as such, I have to be hands-on as well.
Yeah, that's very different. Whereas, as you said, oftentimes we're writing code in the cloud, or we're creating an app on our phone.
Yeah.
And those kind of wireframes exist in any kind of template and really are proven. You know, this is a world of low code and no code these days. And so you can actually create a wireframe with just a very basic tool. And then the build might be actually written in code like Java or something else. But these days we're really in a Scrum world of iteration, and that kind of agile process means that we can be virtual, it's not so hands-on, and it's definitely not technical anymore.
Exactly, and that's definitely where hardware or IT infrastructure completely kind of changes from agile. I would say that agile is not as appropriate in those scenarios or in those industries, and the reason is because say you want to build a piece of hardware, you need to test it, it needs to go through compliance, especially if it's going through a customer home. You can't just deliver a little bit, hope it works. What if it blows up? Now we got a big boo-boo. So we need to make sure it's tried and proven before we release. We need to be that little bit more detailed. A waterfall kind of methodology is a lot more appropriate, and that's what I tend to use when delivering projects.
How things work between the way things work in Europe and the way things work in the UK. Used to be that the UK was part of Europe, right?
Yeah, it used to be. Apparently,
not so much.
Not anymore. But yeah, I've always just worked in the UK. I think UK working environment is very multicultural these days, which is really, really good. I thoroughly enjoy it. So for me, you have to be really, really sensitive to understand that people have different wants, needs, people work in different ways, and to understand that and take that into consideration. And when it comes to building relationships, that's also very key. In the UK, for example, now after the pandemic, a lot of organisations are moving towards flexible working, which is absolutely amazing. As a project manager, a lot of the time you don't physically need to be there. 80% of the work that you do is communication, which can be done on other mediums, but a lot of the time as well, it is good to build relationships face to face. So I think that's really key.
Absolutely. I think part of it is how people want documentation to look, expect documentation to look. And so figuring out early on and training everyone the same on whatever's happening in your country may be this, but what we're going to do together is that other thing. This is our team's way of working. And it might be a way of working based on the company, or it could be a way of working based on that particular project and project goal. And as project manager, it's your job to figure out what that is. And if you're looking for advice, you can either check out 𝐸𝐸 in Motion or ProjectSkillsMentor, because we've got tons of examples of different project approaches, and you're going to want to be well versed in that to make sure you're making the right decision for your project.
That's very true.
All right, let's talk certifications. I'll start first. Well, I am a PMP from PMI, so that's a Project Management Institute Professional Project Manager. I believe in the power of certifications because at IBM, Shell, and Apple, some of the companies I've worked with, they really believe in certifications. But that's not true everywhere, is it? So tell me about your journey.
Yeah, so when I first started, I had no experience whatsoever, and I had no certifications. And a lot of entry level roles in the UK in particular, you can also start and get into project management without certifications. That being said, it is helpful to have certifications, and I would advise it for those people that need to have underlying experience. Eventually, I did a Prince 2 qualification, and I did another qualification called Agile PM, and the DSDM model as well. So I was able to build on my practical experience that I learned for about a year, and then understand the theory. I saw how it kind of contrasted at times, but I also understood why it's a really good foundation.
And if you want to know more about certifications, I have a video and a blog. So certainly, if you're in the UK, I think Prince 2 is the gold standard, right?
These days it is.
Yeah. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this compare and contrast, because project management is a whole world, a whole possibility of what's true. It's not just one thing. And we hope today has shown you that that's the case. So be sure to check out 𝐸𝐸 in Motion and Project Skills Mentor for more on project management. And we'll see you next time on ProjectSkillsMentor.com. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.